And let's literalize God for a moment and imagine the big man in the white gown with a white beard, as we used to imagine as children, sitting in some giant throne up in heaven. And as those prayers pierce into heaven, and he wishes to answer them, and he has this cloak of evil that he must send his workers through to help us. Don't you think as they come through, he nudges that angel sitting next to him and says, "Did you hear what he said? Did you hear what he asked for? Go." And instead, what does he hear? "Please God, let me win the lottery." You pray to the Almighty who can change everything, and we waste prayer. We waste it on selfish things. "Please God, let me get this new thing. Let me get the new car." And as he hears those, I'm sure he just turns away and says, "Oh, not again. Not again." But I'm damn sure the God I pray to, when our prayers travel through and I say, "Give me the money to build another house for these kids," that he grabs those angels either side and he says, "You heard them. Go. Go. Influence the minds of people around them. Get them to share. Open their hearts. Protect those children." It's war, guys. It's war. Of the darkest sort. Because the victims of this war are the most defenseless members of society. Be it against these rapists or the witch doctors or poverty and hunger. It's the voiceless, those without the ability to see, to speak, to walk. And the devil still comes walking in their room and poisons their souls with the actions of a soul he's already destroyed.
Feather's tale as its name, is it truth or unreal? Savior or dream in our world, can we feel that someone is there?
Hey guys, I want to talk about something very important. I want to talk about, what are you praying for? People don't even believe in the power of prayer. What they focus on is what they'll achieve. What they pray and put out into the world is what will come back to them. What they lay at the feet of God is what he can respond to you regarding. What are we praying for? You know, this week, I have taken 2 persons into our full-time guardianship here at the NGO, here at the Children's Village. One is an adult and she is wheelchair bound. She was wheelchair bound after domestic violence. Sadly, after that, somebody raped her and she now has a newborn baby. That newborn baby's premature and only now 14 days old. So the pair of them have had to come into our care. Yesterday, I admitted a child into our care who was 15. She is nearly blind and she has the mind of a child. She doesn't have the mind of a 15-year-old. She has quite severe cerebral palsy. She has a 6-month-old baby. She was raped. I have other children in my care who were raped and abused. Boys, girls, the youngest being 3 years old, the eldest 16. This is war, guys. This is spiritual warfare of the darkest kind. The broken, the dark, empty, loveless vessels that go around committing such acts do the work of that thing which we would call in the West Satan, the enemy, evil, the devil. The war doesn't begin by simply tackling those evil people. The war begins by preventing the evil. Einstein rightly said the world is not evil because of evildoers, but because of the people who sit by and do nothing. I have young men in my care who from the age of 8 years old were habitually raped by heroin addicts on the streets of the local town. As they were raped by these men, their minds became poisoned and contorted towards all that is good, towards the concept of good, towards the concept of morality, towards the concept of justice and fairness. Because every day, every night, their contact with humanity was to be raped by gangs of soulless and destroyed human beings. But those men were taught how to do that as well, by other men who did it to them when they were children. And when you leave a child to be brutalized and harmed and tortured and without any love, and there are people all around them in their closed off walls, in their family homes, who just want to keep their own safe. Perfectly natural, keep your own safe. But when you shut off and they walk past your home, do you think they are going to grow to have empathy for you? Do you think they're going to grow to have empathy for the children who might be being raised in your house? When you couldn't reach out and feed them, when you had more than you needed? And this is even more apparent here in Tanzania. There are many people living in big compounds, big fancy houses in the local town. It's a small minority of people. And some do go out in the community and help, but many do not. You have white volunteers living in the local town, partying and drinking every weekend, burning resources, while children are raped on the streets outside, because they bring their Western carnal mind here, and then they try to help. And the devil rubs his hands together, as he has another way to poison this society, even via those who come to supposedly do good, by teaching a terrible example to all around them. The ignorance is profound, and the damage that ignorance does is heartbreaking. Children who are left to be abused and tortured as they are, ultimately it's torture. Physical, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, it's utter torture. When you intercept them and you pull them into a loving home, they rehabilitate. I've seen it. I see it daily. It works. Because somebody reaches out and says, I will love you, even though their characteristic is totally unloving. I often say, God has given me the job to love the unlovable many days here. But when you offer that love, it will heal. And then the darkness doesn't get a chance to perpetuate itself, because another young boy who's been raped doesn't grow up to become a man with the strength to rape. A man with a heart so dark that they would rape a blind, disabled girl, impregnating her, destroying her mother's faith in humanity, destroying those around her brothers and sisters' faith in humanity. And again, what choice do you have as a parent here? Do you leave your child at home where they are vulnerable and people can do such a thing, whilst you go and make money so as the child can eat? Or do you let them starve so as you can sit with them and starve together? This is war, guys, of the highest order. And the enemy is those who act under the carnal mind. It's why I never shut up about it. The carnal mind is the flesh, the undisciplined flesh. And whether you're sitting at home masturbating at a laptop computer, or you're in this country raping someone, you're still embracing the same dark aspect of human nature. Of course, one is far worse than the other, but it comes from the same origin. That's why I'm so heavy about it stopping. Our prayers have the power to change it. Our actions have the power to change it. You can take children who will grow to be evil. They will grow to do evil. They will grow to serve the enemy. And you can save them today. In your own community, here, wherever it's going to be in the world. But then this horrendous darkness behind the scenes is not going into the energy and consciousness of this reality. I don't know if many of you have ever seen the image of two oceans colliding, and they are both different colours, both different densities, and they don't mix. Feather's tail is right where they join, between light and dark, good and evil. The space between hot and cold, that's where we are, the front line. And it's dark, and it's messed up, and it's evil. It's pure evil, some of the stuff we have to deal with. But the healing is pure love. And we achieve it with prayer. We achieve it with action. And I started this by saying, what are we praying for? You pray to the Almighty God, the Creator of all. He who can move mountains. He who can build all of this using me, a dopey working class guy from the northeast of England, a camera and a laptop. He has the power to do that. To take someone who is sitting in clubs every weekend and snorting cocaine, smoking weed all the time, taking ketamine, ecstasy, just stuck in a perpetual childish state, taking drugs in amongst all these other lost souls who are taking drugs. He can reach into me, wake me up and say, come here and do my bidding. And I'm not alone in that. Look to the great people of the history who left wonderful works for you to read. St. Francis of Assisi, I have been all things unholy. If God can work through me, he can work through anyone. For the grace of God, that is I. I have been all things unholy. And if he can work through me, and if he can raise this anger in me towards this, an anger which is useful, an anger which makes me act, an anger which gets me out of bed on a morning to make sure I get more and more children here, whether I'm tired or not, because I don't want to see this any longer. Every child I bring in is another opportunity for us to protect the child inside these walls, instead of being out there at the mercy of the enemy and the carnal mind. And when I get down and I pray, I say to God, let me be my highest good. Strengthen me to walk in your path, in your light. Guide me. Give me what I need to provide for these children. I pray big. Let me build a village. Let me build a hospital. And let's literalize God for a moment and imagine the big man in the white gown with a white beard, as we used to imagine as children, sitting in some giant throne up in heaven. And as those prayers pierce into heaven, and he wishes to answer them, and he has this cloak of evil that he must send his workers through to help us. Don't you think as they come through, he nudges that angel sitting next to him and says, did you hear what he said? Did you hear what he asked for? Go. And instead, what does he hear? Please God, let me win the lottery. Oh, please God, make sure that I do this. You pray to the Almighty who can change everything, and we waste prayer. We waste it on selfish things. Please God, let me get this new thing. Let me get the new car. And as he hears those, I'm sure he just turns away and says, oh, not again. Not again. But I'm damn sure the God I pray to, when our prayers travel through and I say, give me the money to build another house for these kids, that he grabs those angels either side and he says, you heard them, go. Go. Influence the minds of people around them. Get them to share. Open their hearts. Protect those children. It's war, guys. It's war. Of the darkest sort. Because the victims of this war are the most defenceless members of society, be it against these rapists or the witch doctors or poverty and hunger. It's the voiceless, those without the ability to see, to speak, to walk. And the devil still comes walking in the room and poisons their souls with the actions of a soul he's already destroyed. When you pray, remember who's listening. And when he answers you, remember to act. Because I assure you, every last person with even the faintest hum of the song of love in their heart is needed right now, in this instant, to help someone. You've got to pray the right prayers, and you've got to act when the time comes. Pray big. And don't pray for yourself. God bless. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, as it really helps us to grow the channel and with it help more children here in Tanzania. Also, don't forget you can support our work by sharing with children in crisis here, be it sharing for a particular need or even sharing one-on-one support for education, housing, food and medical care. It can be done for as little as the cost of a cup of coffee a week back in the West after all. Just visit www.sharetanzania.co.uk to find out more. Lastly, remember you can also support us via Patreon, www.patreon.com/featherstail, and help keep us here in Tanzania to continue our work. The links for the website and for the Patreon are in the description box of this video. Love and light, guys. See you soon.